What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoundHound. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down what's really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoundHound is pulling back slightly, 1.64%, 1320 the low, 1370 the high, and very low volume. So 20.9 million shares being traded, 52.1 is the average. So ultimately, SoundHound, their volume, something weird is happening behind the scenes, because even based on the price action yesterday, market was selling off. They were one of the only ones on my watch list that actually closed in the green. As far as today goes, you do have the market digesting the recent jolt numbers. So openings came in at 7.1, forecast of 7.3, quits 3.2 versus 3 million the forecast. Ultimately, not that great in data points, but this does really reconfirm the cuts for September. So right now there is a 95.7% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. And then for the October 29th meeting, there's now a 49.1% likelihood of a following 25 basis point cut. So that's really good in my opinion. So even though we did get somewhat negative data, this is very positive for rate cuts for growth stocks and through that SoundHound. Just interestingly enough, like I said, it is going down. No news from SoundHound today, no SEC filings. They do have this fireside chat that's coming out tomorrow morning. And so this is at the Citi's Global TMT conference in New York. So hopefully some pretty good things are stated there. But I feel like one thing that's really occurred with SoundHound is that they've done a lot of these types of interviews, but they not really much good information and new information comes from this. So I think these used to be a good catalyst, but nowadays it's just reconfirming kind of the highlights from the last earnings at the end of the day. But nonetheless, like I said, SoundHound's price action is very weird. Shorts have been increasing over the last couple of trading days. So right now they're increasing 824,000 shares. 33.92% of the free float is being shorted. Works to be 123.74 million shares overall are being shorted. Put it in comparison, all-time high short interest for SoundHound is at 35 roughly, so 35.3. So yeah, shorts are really doubling down. Potentially we might be seeing a all-time high sometime this week if it does continue on this path. So it went from about, it looks like 30% short interest to where it is now, just in the span from August the 18th to now. So kind of crazy stuff. Like I said in the past, with lower volume, you have shorts and algorithmic trading making up for a good about 60-70% of the overall volume, and probably around 40 to 50 from just shorts alone. This is why SoundHound does lag, and this is why you see a lot of weird price action. So quickly popping over here, so you can kind of generally see based on the flow, there's a lot of algos. So that's this section right here. But even looking at the market position, there now all of a sudden is this very strong wall of selling. So that wasn't present last couple trading days. So you can kind of see, for instance, on Friday, August the 29th, this section right here where the red is, there was nothing. So essentially going into this week, this is why I did a video over the weekend saying, hey, this week is pretty optimistic. There's no real crazy walls, but all of a sudden, somehow it just pops up today. So even yesterday, no crazy walls, and then today just boom. So I think there's a lot of kind of sketchiness happening behind the scenes. Whether that be attributed to shorts or market makers or something along those lines. But nonetheless, even with today's pull a little bit lower, it is above that 10-day moving average. So still looking pretty good on a technical standpoint. And aside from that, still above all the key pivotal moving averages that generally I like to look at. Stochastic RSI, on a side note, is considered somewhat still overdone, so very oversold. And there hasn't been any new analyst ratings. So last one was on the 29th. So aside from all that fun stuff though, quickly moving over to the options, just to give you a quick overview of what that is really kind of presenting. So 5.26 million in calls, 627,000 in puts, 49% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. So I don't know if maybe the market in some cases is actually looking at this data for face value, because like I said, this is somewhat negative data, but indirectly, this is kind of leads to a rate cut. So I think going into this week, as I mentioned in my video on the weekend, that we kind of wanted negative data. So I don't know what's happening with behind the scenes, but from a bull standpoint, you do see a consensus for it to be between that $13.50 and $14. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub roughly $13. So given where we are at, there is more upside, but clearly there's a little bit more overwhelming anticipation that we're going to have a pull lower. These are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So a lot of good transactions. Regrettably, a lot of big pockets of selling. Even first thing right here, 4.7 million sell, and a couple of pockets, like I said, of buying, but for the most part, a lot of selling going on. These are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool. So dark pool is often enough used by hedge funds and shorts. So despite obviously this week looking fairly good for a lot of growth stocks, including SoundHound, things seem to be just somewhat falling apart. Right now with it at 13.11, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So 13.27, it was kind of flirting with that a little bit, but that's going to be a key point to really watch for it to close above today. Best case scenario. So 13.27, flip side 10.45. I'm looking at the 1-day chart on a side note. So these are very strong support and resistance points. If you're wanting to day trade, just looking at the 4-hour briefly, it is right now right above this R1. So 13.09 is going to be that key support to watch for it to hold today. Flip side 13.36. So a couple just numbers to keep in mind, dependent on if you are a long-term investor, day trader, or whatever else. But nonetheless, I do feel still, even with it pulling lower today, I still do feel like there is more upside on the table for SoundHound. And clearly the market's just reacting to potentially some news associated to tariffs, or maybe again taking this data for true face value. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. Are you buying? Are you selling? What are you doing with SoundHound? Only thing that I did recently is I did sell some 1150 puts. So in case you don't know what that means, ultimately if SoundHound is below 1150, I get to buy it. Flip side, if it's kind of goes above it, then I get to keep the premium. So in my opinion, it's kind of a win-win. So I recommend a lot of individuals, even aside from SoundHound, any stock that you generally like and you are going to buy regardless, consider selling a put, because then it gets you a little bit more extra money, in my opinion. But no matter what, you do whatever floats your boat. One final thing though, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.